Merry Christmas everyone! I hope you're having a very fun and festive day today. If you haven't seen the first part of this video where I explain my Christmas collaboration challenge and show many amazing Christmas themed art and stories, then you really need to check it out. Make sure to check out the first part of this video in the card right here or in the description box down below. Now we're on to part 2 and I am so excited to share more Christmas themed art and stories with you all. For this challenge, I will be showing your Christmas-themed art and characters while I also read some of the amazing Christmas-themed stories you submitted. This story is called Siko's Christmas Lesson. It's by Rise of Bread and Chaotic Thread. In this story, it features two of the main characters from their light novel, The Monster of Draco Silk, which they're planning on releasing later this month. The characters are Tomoyo Rindle, aka Siko, and Kalo Rindle from 2 years before the main story. It was the day before Christmas and one 7-year-old girl named Siko had been preparing for it all year round. "Here, piggy, piggy, piggy," she squealed as she crept towards the porcelain pink swine, hammer and all in hand, an evil glint in her eye and a cheeky smile across her face. The poor porcelain piggy knew its time was up. Curse the fat man and his corporate greed, driving little kids everywhere to shatter piglets into tiny pieces and gain the legal tender inside. Sadly, it couldn't speak, and so its concern went unnoticed. Soon her wee hands grabbed for the silver dimes and copper pennies inside. "A feast for Santa I will make, bribe old Wrinklebones to grant my wish." And her wish? Why, it was simply more money, of course. Kids these days are all too smart. Rather than useless toys that deteriorate, she dreamt of money bags with dollar signs that could proliferate. "Mother, Mother, I want everything on this list," I touted, showing Mother an old recipe list for the fanciest cookies by Granny Oldbags, the greatest cookiesmith this side of town. "Sweetheart, no, we got plenty of cookies as it is," replied Mother, like a snooty pants. I knew she was wrong, 'cause Granny Oldbag said so on TV, and when has TV ever lied? And so I stomped my legs and waved my hands, doing the woogie-loogie dance. A good girl I had been all year, but what about my sweet reward? "All right, sweetie, if you insist," sighed her tired mother, relenting. When Kai, my younger brother, joined in. I guess our combo moves and fancy dance were too much for even her to handle. Soon Mother was back with groceries. Soon we began our preparations, while Kai napped under the counter. Mother had brought all the ingredients I had asked for. However, I didn't expect it to consume my life savings. And when it came time to beat the dough, my mother said the trick was to imagine someone's face. And so I imagined Santy. Finally, he was at my mercy. If he would not give me my dues quite so wholly, then he would not be going back to Mrs. Claus quite so jolly. I gave him one stern look to remind him who he was messing with. After all, we weren't monsters. Then we put the chocolate chips in. My mother tried to use them all, but I protested. I needed him to be able to fit inside people's chimneys unimpeded. After my bathroom break, I meant to continue, but the mysterious lack of chocolate chips halted my plans. And even after we moved on, my suspicions only grew. So I kept an eye on Mother's face to look for some clues. A puckered lip, 2 puffed up cheeks, some guilty eyes, some chocolate stains. Noticing none of that, I relented, only to come face to face with the true culprit when I looked down and saw those exact signs on my brother's face. As he poked his head out from under the counter with the most innocent smile, saying, "Siko, I think Mummy is telling lies. I saw her eating those." I pinched his cheeks. "Siko," he teared up. But Mother said that she had enough as she kicked us both out of the kitchen and continued the rest on her own. Soon the oven door chimed and a delicious smell wafted in. As I tried to step back into the kitchen, I noticed my contender doing the same. There was only one narrow door, and it wasn't big enough for both of us. So with much resentment and careful deliberation, I contemplated the consequences of ignoring this trifling matter now, only to face the dire repercussions later. A deal was required. One legal tender note to bribe him, to rein him in, and in darkness bind him. What's legal bender note? Is that tasty? His mouth now watering, saliva dripping off his clothes. Of course it's tasty. It's what adults call money, I said in an all-knowing manner, promptly nodding my cranium. "Oh, money! I want to taste it, Siko," he cooed, staring at some unforeseen faraway place as the light streaming through the open windows enlightened his visage, now that of a monk having gained enlightenment. Sadly, I would break it to him later that money could not be ingested, for I had tried it during my last birthday before realizing the great power it held over the hearts of men. "Oh, Siko, it's ready now. Come here and help me wrap it for father." I went in to help my mother, but wait, these are for Santa, so why did mother say that these are for him? "Does father want any?" I asked, an unsettling feeling descending upon me. "Oh, don't worry about him, sweetheart. I'm sure he will have plenty," she reassured me. Yet it wasn't reassuring at all. These were for Santa, not for father. When night came, we laid it out. Milk and cookies for Santa. Everything was ready, but father had still not come home from work. I was worried. Worried that Santa would shy away from seeing a drunk man stumbling his way across the living room and onto the sofa before mother comes down to princess carry him back to his room as usual. A ritual steeped in the Rindle family since time immemorial. Well, it did change slightly, ever since my baby brother Sarah was born. Now whenever my father makes any loud noise, my mother comes down with a fly bat in hand. But I still rather not have Santa leave because we startled him. Santas I hear are shy creatures after all. So I sneaked my way downstairs and hid myself behind the curtains just to make sure father would not ruin Christmas. Right then, Chris Wrinkle stumbles his way into our home through the front door. Ho ho ho, my poor bones are too big to enter through the chimney. Oh wait, I mean, these people have no chimney. Oh, my migraine. Santa seemed quite full of some Christmas spirit as he held his head and shook it, with the dingle-dangle of the bell at the end of his cap dingle-dangling all over. He reached into his velvet bag, bringing out a small brown one with legal tender in it, no doubt, and what I assumed was a toy train for Kai and a rattle for Sarah. After sampling all the milk and cookies, including what we hid, the merry man with stained beard and spilt milk on his attire hurried his way outside onto the dark streets of Bellspring like the true hero he is. P.S. Later, I found out that the money was fake, and when I told mother that I wished to sue the old lady from the candy store for refusing to sell me candy, she told me that I should file a complaint to Santa, and it worked. I received real money in the mail the next day with an apology note as expected about the mix-up. But that's when I stopped believing. I was scammed, and I only got something out because he felt threatened that I would expose him. That's when I learned my lesson, that nothing is given or gained for free. This story is called a JJ Reaper Christmas Special, and it's by Randomly Official. On a snowy night, while the moon is full, someone appears to be sitting on top of Tokyo Tower. "Man, it's been one heck of a day," sighs the person, while he takes out a cigarette from the box and starts lighting it. How the heck does Peter do this, from swinging about in New York to being a full-time student? Just as he seems to be getting a break, the radio he taped on Tokyo Tower files a police report. "We have a 1046 in progress on Onigashima Bank. All units near the area, please make your way with caution." "Well, JJ, I guess it's back to work," he says to himself as he turns off the cigarette and puts it back in the box. JJ puts on his kitsune mask while standing and falls off the tower intentionally. Just as he is near the ground, his eyes glow purple and he starts flying through the streets of Japan, flying higher over the buildings and running on the roofs while doing so, until he lands on the building across the bank. "There it is," he says to himself, before flying in the back way. Thief number 1 and 2 are busy cleaning out the safe, while the third thief is anxiously waiting to leave. "Guys, we shouldn't be doing this. We should leave before the cops." Just as he was about to finish his sentence, one of the 2 thieves grabs him by the shirt and yells, "Listen here, kid, I don't give 2 craps about you. If you want to surrender and be our scapegoat, that's fine by me." JJ silently waits in the shadows of the ceiling, listening and watching the whole argument unfold. "Renji, is this true?" he nervously asks the one thief. "Of course not, Yamato. Look, all you have to do is just keep a lookout for the police, and once we have the money stashed in the car, we will come and get you," says Renji. "But what about the Reaper? He is 10 times worse than the cops. He's a literal demon," says Yamato in a panicked tone. "He may be a demon, but that doesn't mean he's bulletproof," says Renji confidently, while showing him his gun, and adds, "Now go wait by the door and wait for the signal." "Oh, okay, thanks Renji, you're a really good friend," says Yamato, smiling and slowly starting to calm down. While Yamato heads to the front door, Renji continues to stuff the money into bags. Shinji asks him, You're really willing to risk our necks for this little friend of yours? No. Only reason why I even brought him along is because he'll do anything I say, because he thinks I'm his best friend. Once we're done here, we leave him to take the fall. Like a lamb to the slaughter, laughs Shinji, the other thief. While they are packing, JJ quietly lands behind them. Hey gentlemen, need a hand? As he punches Renji, sending him to the other side of the room, knocking him out for a bit. At the same time, Shinji tries to take JJ on with hand-to-hand combat. Yamato runs in and sees JJ dodging all his punches while teasing Shinji at the same time. If you want, I can blindfold myself and you can actually start trying, laughs JJ as he breaks Shinji's nose with one flick from his finger. Yamato begs for JJ not to hurt him and that he'll change and be a better person. JJ sighs, walking up to him and knocking him out by hitting the side of his neck, catching him in the process. Renji starts standing up dizzily while holding his head in pain, and at that moment, JJ's eyes light up purple and he has a monstrous voice. But before he says a single word, JJ slowly walks towards them, grabbing Shinji by the collar, and he does the same to Renji, lifting them both up. I'm taking the kid with me. Any objections? They both shake their heads no in fear. Good, says JJ, then knocks their heads together, leaving them unconscious. His eyes stop glowing and his voice goes back to normal as he ties them up and puts the money next to them. Then he takes off his mask for a bit to take a breather, and a devilish thought came to his mind as he started to draw mustaches on the unconscious thieves while giggling a little to himself. Honestly, JJ, that's just being a child, says an echoing voice. Well, Yami, you seem to forget that I am 16, he says to the ball of purple energy hovering over his one shoulder. He picks up the cold Yamato and puts him over his other shoulder. The police kick open the doors to the bank, shouting freeze, only to find the unconscious thieves with a note saying, Merry Christmas officers, sorry my gift couldn't come with a bow. Ah. Yamato begins to come to, while JJ is finishing the cigarette he saved from earlier. Where am I? Says a confused Yamato. Oh, you're up. We're outside, says JJ to him, while smoking still. What about the others? My friends, I mean, asks Yamato. Oh, you mean those two? Jail, says JJ, finishing off that cigarette. You should honestly get better friends and not people who will string you along like a violin. You're a smart kid pretending to be dumb because you want friends. Stop me if I'm wrong, says JJ in an angry tone. That's the truth, but what does it matter and why care about that so much anyway? It's not like you can understand it anyway, says a saddened Yamato. At that moment, JJ took off his mask to reveal that he has dark skin with white curly hair and purple eyes. He smiles at Yamato and says, I care cause I'm the same, kid. Look, I was harsh cause I don't want you pulling something so reckless that you can't undo. Cause who knows, there's a lot I want to take back. After 10 minutes of smoking together and talking about their problems, JJ gives him a number of a big company and gives him 70,000 yen. Merry Christmas, Yamato. I figure you could use it more than me, you know, says JJ, smiling at him. I can't take this. It's too much. I know I'm a stray kid that no one wants. You really don't have to. You're a 17-year-old kid who's so alone you'd do anything for anyone just to feel needed. Honestly, I have a lot compared to you. And by the way, tell the owner of that number that the Reaper has cashed in his debt, and see if you can't get some sort of job there to keep yourself sorted. I wouldn't be a hero if I wasn't willing to help people who need it. Thank you so much. I promise not to let you down, says Yamato to JJ, while smiling with tears in his eyes. You better not. That's my game station money right there, laughs JJ. Yamato and JJ both start laughing and enjoying each other's company. Well, I got a dash. I have school to deal with. Take care, Yamato, says JJ with a smile on his face. Thank you, says Yamato with a big smile on his face as they shake hands and JJ flies away. A few days later, JJ is walking to the post office with his friends Akira and Chloe. Any of you guys done with the assignment yet? Whines Chloe. Did it on day 1, says Akira while on his phone. And I copied on day 2, says JJ as they high-five at that moment. What? No fair. You're supposed to do it yourself. All's fair with love and war, laughs JJ. While Chloe is begging Akira to copy, JJ receives his package and says on the box, We all deserve a Merry Christmas. JJ opens it and it is a Game Station 5. And along with the gift, It is a picture of Yamato on the first day of his job. JJ smiles to himself and thinks, "Glad you're doing good, Yamato." This next story is Tradition by Naru Sheny. A chilly evening. The first star is already shining brightly in the sky. A group of 3 warriors are running towards the highest point in the castle through a stone-built staircase. They reach the 23rd floor. "We're finally here," a girl with red hair, dressed up as a princess in a royal pink dress with a bow on her back, shouts loudly. An older man with grey hair looks around. "No, Stella, this isn't it." He has a brown robe and is holding a wooden cane with a snail-like swirl at the top of it. Figures he isn't here. A young white-haired boy with a determined look in his eyes smirks. He is carrying a black sword and a rather massive red cape with white fur at the end over his traditional banded outfit. Suddenly, a rain of arrows shoots from behind them as they all barely manage to dodge it. "Stella, Trevor, are you alright?" He looks back at his comrades. "Who the heck are you? I thought we defeated all of his generals." Chris falls back, managing to regroup with Stella and Trevor, each facing one direction so that they are covered from all sides. "Wait, where are those arrows that just fired?" Stella looks around, but the arrows are nowhere to be found. "Don't tell me. It can't be. Took you long enough to realize, big sister." A woman that is almost identical to Stella appears out of thin air. She wears a black royal dress and has golden hair. She is holding a bow, but there are no arrows on her. "Nova? But we all thought you were dead." Stella starts shaking. "Don't talk to me so casually." She aims her bow at Stella, and an arrow is formed from the smoke. Another person, the executioner, appears from the dark and stands up next to Nova. His head is covered in cloth. Trevor laughs maniacally. "Wahahaha, I hope that at least you two will be a challenge for us." Stella breathes in and breathes out. "I always felt like you were alive, but why are you standing on his side?" "I have no obligation to answer that question." Nova tries to suppress the emotions. Chris is suddenly cut out by Trevor. "No, you go ahead." Chris understands that he needs to leave this battle to his friends. He nods with his head, and with a big smile on his face, he rushes forward, right past the 2 enemies. The executioner tries to stop him, but Nova grabs his hand. "Don't do this. It's their battle." Chris leaves the 23rd floor. "Do you think he's going to be alright?" "Wahahaha, did you forget who he is, Stella? Today he will fulfill his destiny. He will bring the legendary JSXF lights for people around the world." Trevor and Stella both smirk at each other and then start rushing towards their enemies, much to Nova's and Executioner's shock. Chris finally gets to the very top of the tower. Once he lays his eyes on a certain something, he goes pale. "Don't tell me." "You're late, Chris." A dark-haired young man wearing a black suit of armor takes out an elegant-looking white sword that is wrapped up in an old piece of cloth. The sword was lying under a massive coniferous tree. "I can't believe you were able to summon it from the Tree of Wishes. The Snow Eater's sword should have belonged to me. What magic did you use to deceive it, Thomas?" "Chris, you know very well that the Snow Eater is immune to any type of magic, trickery, or other means of getting it by force. What you're witnessing is a birth of the real Chosen One, who will fulfill the prophecy. The legendary JSXF lights will never accept you. You're not pure-hearted enough. I will make you eat those words. I can see you obtained the Eternal Black Fire Sword and the Red Joy Cloak. Too bad that both items are inferior to my Snow Eater." Chris frowns, but he touches his red cloak, still smiling. "You know what? Thanks for reminding me that my journey was worth it. But now I will end you, claim the Snow Eater for myself, and bring the lights upon this world. Come, Chris." He assumes a battle stance. "Thomas!" Chris rushes towards Thomas and tries to cut his head off with his Eternal Black Fire Sword. Thomas easily fends off his attack by using the Snow Eater sword. A legendary battle has started. The 2 warriors who have been standing on the opposite ends of their own beliefs now fighting for their ideals. Like a chessboard, the 2 exchange black and white attacks. Sparks illuminate their faces every time their blades make contact. "Snow! Calamity!" Thomas calls out a powerful attack by swinging his sword above his head. Snowflakes start falling down from heavens rapidly. As he moves his sword to pinpoint his enemy, The snowflakes create a tornado and attack Chris. Eternal flame! Chris draws an affinity symbol in the air with his sword, and a powerful flame attack bursts from the edge of his blade, piercing through the snow tornado, melting the snow. The flame accidentally sets some branches of the Tree of Wishes on fire, but only the tips of the branches are set alight, and the fire is unable to spread further. The tree knows it cannot submit to any destruction. Winter Slash! Thomas swings the white sword, and it creates a chilling slashing attack travelling through the air. It slashes Chris's chest. His skin is cut and the freezing slash leaves a burn. Ugh! Chris falls on his knee. I'll never give up. I am the one who's going to make the whole world joyful. I won't let anybody be threatened by your sick ideals. Removing the ones with tainted hearts is not a sick ideal. Who are you to judge who should die? Your heart is also tainted. You're going to die as well. So be it, for the greater good. Chris and Thomas rush at each other with their swords. The wind makes Chris's red cloak come undone as it flies through the air. The sound of a snowstorm, burning fire and clashing blades is heard. The sky is full of stars now, and it's gotten darker. Back on the 23rd floor, Nova and Stella are both pierced with arrows through their hearts. The executioner lies lifeless on the floor. Trevor heads upstairs, but one of his legs is missing. His face is covered in blood and he is panting heavily, leaning on his swirling cane. As he finally manages to climb all the way up, his face is struck with disbelief. I knew it. The prophecy never stated that there is only a single person to be the chosen one. None of their predecessors were able to do this because there was always one winner of the duel. But in the end, Trevor loses balance and falls on the ground. He lifts his head up and sees the branches of the Tree of Wishes burning with the eternal flames. The ground is covered in snow and gentle snowflakes keep falling down. Lifeless bodies of Chris and Thomas are laying under the tree. The red joy cloak is hung on black eternal fire sword, with Snow Eater being stuck in the ground. There are 4 lights circling around the tree, flying rapidly above the scenery. The lights descend on the ground and changes into shadowy human-looking characters. JSXF, Trevor says faintly, as he closes his eyes and passes away. The first shadow's head is illuminated by the tree, and his long straight brown hair is visible from behind. The 2 young men laid their lives in order to create us. I, Jesus, shall make this a world they dreamed of. The second shadow wears a red uniform with white fur at the end. He takes the red joy cloak and puts it on. For the people to feel joy and finally enter a peaceful era, I, Santa, shall bring that era. The third shadow with a thick white beard laughs. Ho ho ho, I am Father X. We were given the greatest gift of them all, the gift of life under this shining tree. The last shadow with a chilling breeze, constantly swirling around their blue uniform, bows down towards them. You didn't just make history, you have created something more powerful. And that's a tradition. I, Frost, declare this day, 24th of December, as the day of joy, the day that will celebrate the fallen warriors of Chris and Thomas. The people will call it Christmas, the 4 men declare at the same time, as they turn back to lights which each disperse into one corner of the world. This story is called No Hope Town by Cassy, also known as Red Dragon. There was once a town that wished for a white Christmas and for Santa to notice them. Kids all around this small town wished and believed for a better Christmas. All the kids gathered in the central part of the town and decided that they would write letters to Santa. It was the week before Christmas, as they planned a full week out, trying to get his attention to bring joy to this one town. It's been a lonely time, since joy hardly comes to this town, being overlooked for years on end. There were about 20 kids that gathered around the center of town night after night, wishing for a white Christmas and to be given presents. They all grew up with stories of Santa, but never once seeing or receiving anything from him. They wished for this to be the year that something good would happen just once, even for some place as small as this. They must not be overlooked just because they are small. Their hearts and beliefs should count also. The joyful kids sang along to Christmas songs and talked amongst themselves, telling stories and wishing for something. They all shared the same wish, even if it meant not getting anything at all. They all wanted a white Christmas and to see Santa. The kids gather for the last night, Christmas Eve, knowing this will be the last time for their wishes to be heard before it is too late. As they gathered, the town started to notice something was happening and wanted to come out also. The adults even came out with tents and sleeping bags to keep warm through the night. They knew the kids worked hard for this and wanted to show support for them, even if they didn't believe anything would come of it. The parents gathered together, talking among themselves, wondering when they lost the Christmas spirit and stopped believing. The clock slowly turned. It was getting close to midnight and it was almost Christmas Day and nothing was happening. The kids leaned into their parents, asking them if it was stupid to wish so hard for anything to happen. They looked down to their kids and told them, just because you're small, it doesn't matter. You can make a big difference. Look at everyone out there. Look at everyone out here to support you. Even if nothing happens, you brought back some Christmas spirit back to this lost town, letting us know that there was more than nothing. The kids smiled and closed their eyes. The clock struck midnight as everyone yelled out Merry Christmas. Everyone smiled as they stood up, looking into the sky and starting to head inside. But before they moved too far, snow started to fall before their eyes. They looked around, seeing a miracle was happening in the lifeless town, as everyone started to believe as they did that something was in the distance. They heard bells jingling and something else. Everyone looked in the direction the bells were coming from as something came into view. Everyone was coming down the street quickly. The kids shouted, "Santa!" The adults looked around at themselves, wondering what they were thinking, as to them it was just bells ringing. The kids ran up to the sleigh and cheered with so much joy for meeting the real Santa for once. The adults walked up next to the kids, reaching out as each one touched the sleigh, feeling it was real, and they started to believe. Everything started to become clear and they could see him also. Santa got out of the sleigh and smiled. It's hard to believe when you live a life of daily stress. Ho ho ho. He walked up to the adults and looked at them. You stopped believing in miracles long ago, but today proves that even when you're older, you never had to stop believing, even if it's only one night a year. As long as you can believe, I'll always be close. Ho ho ho. Merry Christmas. He jumps into his sleigh and hands out presents to everyone. I should get going. He grabbed the reins of his deer and started to move slowly, moving faster until he took off into the air, leaving the small town, but not for good, as long as they believed he would return year after year until they started to lose their way again. Thank you so much to all the wonderful artists and writers that participated in part 2 of my Christmas collaboration challenge. I want to thank each and every one of you for participating and joining my special collaboration. Thank you so much to C*Art111 with Erity Hinode. Thank you to rim.draws with Dal and Yang. Thank you to tboycryptoonarts with Patricia, Mage and Master Lilith. Thank you to Steve Arts with Fiona. Thank you to Sarnnox with Jackie Lofthouse. Thank you to Solarverse Inc. with Asia Oberon and Inari Velwind. Thank you to Captain 23rd with Reginald Grimm from his project Code Sino. Thank you to Disgermanguy with Alice. Thank you to Hentai Core MMD vroid and Anime with Cassy Cringle. Thank you to Little Squishy with June. Thank you to Kirio TY with Rosa and Eve. And thank you to all of the authors who participated in part 2 of this challenge. Siko's Christmas Lesson by Rise of Bread and Chaotic Thread, a JJ Reaper Christmas Special by Ann Dimberly Official, Tradition by Naru Sheny, and No Hope Town by Casey, also known as Red Dragon. And most of all, a big thank you to you for watching and experiencing this collaboration along with all of us. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful day today. We'll see you in the next video. Bye!